What's up, everyone? Tuesday, October 7th. It's been a week or two, I guess, since we've done a show, since Patrick and I have done a show, and Patrick actually not going to be able to join us today, but that's okay because I got Wes Peters here with me, and topic for today is going to be, I guess it's historically been called the CRASH Crucible, but it feels like everyone's calling it Crash Camp this time around.
Yeah, I think JR is changing it up.
Yeah, he always has a theme. He always has some kind of driving thing for each of his competitions. And this year's was, he kind of put out he often will put out like some teaser or something, a title without any information, and then he gets to the information as we go. And at this point, we understand that the reason for the camp is because he's referencing an actual training camp from prior to the 2024 games that he was pretty heavily involved with, that featured both Brooke Wells and Jason Hopper. And I think that that's just in and of itself is a pretty cool concept for a competition that I was trying to think if I've seen something like this before, where a coach has openly said, I trained elite level athletes for something, and then I used inspiration from that training block to create a competition for another group of athletes.
Yeah, it's a cool concept. I think it's really cool that you, I think a lot of times the build up to a competition for me, I love training. I'm the kind of person that can just get in there and train every day. And sometimes training can be more fun for me than a competition. Sometimes the build up to the event can be like more enjoyable. And so I think going through and seeing, the workouts and picking the workouts from every piece of the build and the camp into that competition can be really cool, especially with athletes like Brooke and Jason that are obviously super successful. And I think that these workouts probably aren't the exact same workout they did. I think that JR said that they weren't the exact same, but just seeing the themes and the creativity of how he works through his process of preparing someone for like the hardest competition in the world.
Yeah, in the visual here, you can see it says all events were inspired by the 2024 CrossFit Games 3-week training camp. And sure enough, Brooke Wells comes up in the comment section here with a little emoji, and JR, who's been pretty active here, says they have no idea. And it's one of those things where I have reached out to JR a little bit just to make sure that we have good information to do this show. But like a comment like that, he could be referring to so many different things. And I like that. Like that to me feels like a comment that Dave would have made 10 years ago, where you're like, it just lets the audience, whoever they are, make their own assumptions about what that means. They have no idea how much these workouts crushed you, Brooke. Could be something between them. They have no idea how challenging these are about to be. Another way to interpret it. So I like his little anecdotes there.
Definitely. I think that I've been able to do versions or variants of the workouts over the last couple of days since they came out.
Okay.
We've actually been doing them as little mock team events with 2 individuals that are doing CRASH, and it's been a lot of fun. So I think that these events are so well programmed. I did CRASH in 23, and I did a couple of the workouts in 24, and doing some of Syndicate's JR programming, or JR Syndicate programming rather. Seeing that, like, you always know it's going to be good, but you always know it's going to be exactly like so different from what you see on paper. So I see some of these workouts on paper, that'll be so hard on, your press. Like I look at the P-bar, ring muscle up workout, it's going to be so hard on press, and end up being almost entirely core. It's just something you're like, I don't even know how he thought that through or came up with that, but he's a master at what he does.
He absolutely is. And the other thing that I have noticed, JR's competitions were really the last one that last serious competition I competed in was Crash Crescendo a few years ago. And the first competitions that I ever streamed were also his competitions, or some of the first. I think the very first one I streamed was Crescendo the year after I competed. That was just on an iPhone, and then on Instagram. And then we did, a couple with Savan before he moved on to the other guys. But as I've watched the evolution of this, and the cool thing, if you go to the gym, is that he has banners for every workout, and they're still posted going back to that 2020 year, which was his first season. And you can notice similarities, but I think JR also does a great job of kind of keeping up with the times. So this is I would say kind of contrary to what Dave Castro has done, where Dave Castro has walled himself off intentionally forever from the evolution of the sport outside of the game season. And that's a like creative choice that he's chosen to make. JR is constantly observing, and he sees the patterns that are going on, what other competitions are programming, including the games. He has a very high level gym in general, a lot of competitive athletes at various stages of their career to do testing with. And sometimes that testing can look very different. He can put a workout in a class and watch 100 people do it in a day and learn all he needs to know about a workout. And then he can also have Jason do a workout and get feedback for the very best of the best. So he has some good resources available, but he also makes himself very much, I think, aware and present of what's going on. And we're going to look at the workouts first and help drive the conversation about the very talented pool of athletes that's going to be here. But I think that he has done a good job of maintaining his identity as a programmer, but also keeping up to date with the evolution of the sport around him.
Absolutely. I love these events. I can't say it enough. They're great events.
Well, let's just, I think what we're going to do here, we're going to try our best at least, is to look at an event, which is what they're labeled as for this competition. And then we'll just go men, women, but we're going to kind of bounce some names of athletes that pop up off the page to us based on these workouts. We've kind of tried to pick some athletes so that we can talk about several different ones. I mean, the big names will obviously come up a couple times, but I think what we're hoping to do is highlight some of the depth to this field, and that JR's programming, if you were going to categorize it, I would say that a lot of his workouts favor a specialist or have the potential for a specialist to excel, but the specialty is not so obvious. It's not like, a runner's going to win this one, a strong lifter is going to win this one. It's more like you said, midline stamina, grip fatigue, posterior chain endurance. Like these are the types of the things that he really hammers in on. And so maybe we have a couple athletes who would excel in one or more of these events that we'll talk about. But first one here, open season, 5-round workout. Toes to bars, that 2-inch is the diameter of the pull-up bar that they're going to use, which is a little bit thicker than traditional. Double unders, 500 double unders throughout this workout. So those two things stay the same. The front squats decrease in reps, increase in weight, ending at 305 and 205 for 3, starting with 11 at 225, 165. First thoughts on this one as a workout or an event, and then we'll go to the athletes.
I mean, as an event, obviously, the first thing I thought of when I saw this was 2024 semifinals, the event that they had at Syndicate. That was 5 rounds for time. I think it was 100 double unders, 20 toes to bar, and 10 front squats, 225. What's up, Jay Taga? The it never gets old. But the cool thing about this is I think JR put his own twist on it, and I think that by changing the order, making it a thicker bar, adding the toes to bar on a new bar, and then making it increasing weight, I think he put a really cool spin on it. I think that this workout is going to be, it's going to surprise a lot of people when you get to that 285 to 305 bar. I think that those can definitely be overlooked when you're looking at this workout. But that 285, that 5 there, the 285 is going to be really, really hard. And I think also going from the toes to bar into the double unders is I think it's a different stimulus. Obviously, I think I like it better than the 2024 event, where you have starting off with that gymnastics movement from the bar. You're going to be able to get right back up from those front squats onto the toes to bar, and the double unders are really going to jack that heart rate up a little bit more than the grip and the core did in 2024.
I kind of, when it comes to looking at athletes, I look at this workout in 2 categories. Like you have to have the strength to get through the front squats late in the workout. And so if you have that like checks the first box, and it's probably going to filter you to the top half of the field. But after that, it's 20-minute time cap. JR's time caps are usually pretty accurate, meaning that you're not going to have anyone finishing. I mean, maybe a total freak like someone like Colton, who's the best squatter we've seen, can do this in 16 minutes. But a majority of the field, if they finish, will be in the last 2 minutes of the time cap or get time capped. And a lot of times at his competitions, half the field gets time capped. So there's also a longer duration that's required fitness under fatigue, midline breakdown with the heavy front squat weights and the toes to bar right off the bat here. So having said all of that, I mean, I think Colton is a pretty easy pick for this on the men's side. Are there any other athletes that jump off the page for you?
I say Nate. I think Nate Ackerman is a great pick for this event in terms of strength, in terms of gymnastic capacity. He's an incredible athlete when it comes to hanging or pulling gymnastics. I think you can't overlook him on this one, especially with how strong he's gotten. I also think it's cool too that JR did one of the qualifier events, which was the squat clean, rope climb, double under, right? Which is almost a progression into what he's done with this event. And I think a lot of people said they felt very core heavy on that workout, even without the toes to bar, just squat cleans and double unders with that rope climb, a little bit of a core flexion. But I think that it's cool to see his progression with that as well. Another one I think you could look out for on this workout is a guy like Drake Lewis. I think Drake Lewis he's shown over the years, whether it be at Crash or at the West semifinal, that he is really, really good at these longer events with a little bit of gymnastics volume. He finished the qualifier workout with the rope climbs in like 13 minutes or something silly like that, which was, I think, 5 minutes ahead of the cap. And you had a lot of guys in that 14 to 16, 17 minute range that qualified. Finishing a workout like that shows me that I think he'll be very, very good at this workout.
Yeah. And we have Patrick's posted on Instagram now the picks that I made for Crash for the men's and women's side, and we'll get to that towards the end of the show. But spoiler alert, I have Drake Lewis finishing 8th in this competition. I mean, he could definitely be a podium finisher for the competition in general, but I also think he'll get off to a good start. And someone else who I think will get off to a good start that might be a little bit lesser known on the men's side, but is I believe a training partner, at least under the TTRU, the True Training Camp with Adrian Conway, is Mike Evans. Yeah. Could be he's for some reason he seems to often start competitions well in general, but he's also notched some wins in workouts that have squatting volume and toes to bar in his competition history. So this could be a good one for maybe a little bit lesser known name off the bat on the men's side. Dense updates. This is a 19.2 spinoff. I think JR's talked about some of these workouts, and I know that Bill and Chase also have done a show previewing the workouts. I haven't watched those. I just wanted to have kind of an original thoughts with Wes here, but any updates or information like this, super helpful. So thank you. What about on the women's side for first event?
On the women's side, I think you got to look at a girl like Kyra Milligan. Kyra Milligan is a hard one to beat on this workout. Kyra Milligan, Paige Powers, and Caroline Stanley, I think, are all three girls that I can see absolutely crushing this event. But at first glance, when I look at, double under volume, gymnastics volume, and heavy squatting, Kyra's the person that's going to come up really quick. So I'd say Kyra and Paige, if I had to guess, would be battling it out on this one.
Yeah. JO throwing in a pick, Hannah Hardy down here. So if you guys have some picks like that, it would be always great to see Hannah in competition. She kind of bounces back and forth between individual and team competitions at this point, but that'd be great for her to start the weekend well. Two other athletes. Well, actually, I think that Caroline Stanley is gonna win this workout. I think she's sneaky on the squatting, and the longer time domain is where she'll have that. Like I would say, her and Kyra both check that first box when you're evaluating this workout, meaning they have the squatting strength and stamina to last. Pushing it to a 15 to 20 minute time domain, I think Caroline has the edge. She's kind of sneaky good on that longer stuff too. And then another athlete to maybe, I don't know if she'll be in the mix for the whole weekend like some of those women that you mentioned, but this looks like a good one for Erica Folo for me as well.
100%.
Let's check workout or event number 2. G Unit. You made kind of alluded to this one earlier. The funny thing is you mentioned that the midline broke down a little bit when you tried it, and it's second event on the first day after a workout where you already have 100 or 80. Is it 100 or 25 and 100 toes to bar? Yeah. And then the front squat that can tax the midline. So a lot of midline fatigue on day one of competition, which is very notable, not just for the first day, but also how that affects you on Saturday and Sunday. But this one's 4 rounds for time, 7 or 6 ring muscle ups, which I would just like to say I love that. I think that is actually a very well tested and appropriate 1 rep difference that you might, it's just 1 rep, have him do it. No, JR is looking for something very specific. It's not an accident that there's one less rep there. 30 feet parallel bar traverse, 5 by 6 feet. So they'll just be going back and forth on these. 21 GHD sit-ups, 30 feet parallel bar traverse, 12-minute time cap. First thoughts on the workout?
Well, like I said, core, very, very core heavy. You don't really think about it a lot doing P-bar and a lot of other settings and a lot of other workouts. But the P-bar, right, requires, as long as if you're not doing a strict P-bar, requires a lot of core stability and requires you to really stay active the whole time. The ring muscle up is obviously very core and hinge heavy, and the GHD is the same way. I think someone that's going to do really well on this workout will be someone that's quick on GHDs and obviously able to get up on those rings really quickly after coming off the P-bars.
When a lot of times when you see workouts like this, ring muscle ups can be like, being very good at ring muscle ups can be a huge advantage. Do you still consider them to be a big advantage here? Or do you think with this volume that it's kind of some of the other stuff that's going to factor in more?
I don't think so. I think anyone in this field that doesn't do these unbroken will probably not have a very good weekend. That's my thought. But I mean, I did this workout.
It pushes to an interesting topic. So that, because now if you have everyone can do this sets unbroken on the muscle ups, then it's not so much necessarily about the muscle ups themselves, but how you feel transitioning from muscle up to the parallel bar. And that's where maybe tricep stamina or strength can be a little bit more advantageous.
Definitely, for sure. I did this workout synchro with Dalton actually yesterday. And I think that a workout like this, like that 7-6 number, like you said, is really perfect for the ring muscle ups. It forces you need to go unbroken, which, like you said, does really put it more on the P-bar and the GHD. I think the one thing that's kind of underrated in this workout is GHD speed. Not only, I mean, I think everyone is going to do the GHDs unbroken. Obviously, it's only 84 GHDs. You have to do the GHDs unbroken, just like the ring muscle ups. What it's going to come down to the GHD speed and your ability to kind of recover almost on the GHD, and then turn right around and get on those P-bars.
And GHDs in general, I would say this year, calendar year, we've had some conversation around them because competition to competition, the standards have changed.
Yeah.
JR and Wilson at the Syndicate Crown came up with a standard for the GHD sit-up that I think mirrors most closely the way it's taught in the level 1 and level 2, or really all the levels of coaching throughout the CrossFit hierarchy. I would expect that he'd implement this here. And while, I guess the argument against it would be it makes it harder on the judges or compromises the movement, it puts the people into the position that we want them to be in, to actually do the movement the way that it was designed to be done. And so I would say the range of speed is less than like the more free standard you would have at WFP, where you can compromise so much, but still having that stamina in the hip flexor and the midline to be able to get up repetitively quick absolutely will pay off, especially not just at the end of this workout, but at the end of this day of competition.
Definitely. And there's, I mean, the guys in this field are going to absolutely crush this workout. I'm really excited to watch this workout.
Do you have any men that you've kind of selected that might surprise on this one or might do very well?
This is an obviously an unashamedly biased pick, but I think Dalton will do really good at this workout. I think this is one that I can see him having a top 5 finish in, or even a top 3 finish in. Just absolutely insane at GHDs, incredible at ring muscle ups, and the P-bars were really quick. So I think Dalton's a really good pick for this workout. I think another one that could really show up in this workout is Quinn Robinson. I think Quinn's another guy that could have a lot of success in this workout. I think if you put that movement combination together, right, there's things that he's pretty solid at. And I think he could surprise on this workout.
I'll say, first of all, both of the guys you mentioned there have a lot of history competing on teams. There's a lot of like team athletes that are competing individually here, including a bunch of them from Mayhem, which we'll get a chance, I'm sure, to talk about some of them. Definitely, you can lean into your biases there. Not only are they your friends, you also know more about them than most people. So selecting a workout where they might actually do very, very well. They're all obviously super fit is perfect. Quinn, he's super talented, man. He's just got a couple big holes. It's pretty much just the upper body pressing vertical gymnastics stuff. Like all of it, strict handstand push-ups, deficit parallettes, handstand walking. It's just not his thing. he's very fit otherwise. And when those things don't show up there, yeah, he's pretty dangerous. Another guy I would be looking at this workout a little. He's such a surprising athlete to me because sometimes his like performances on workouts don't match what I would expect when I look at him. Is Caden Myers, but Caden's, he's he's had a lot of success actually at CRASH on upper body pressing workouts. I do think that the pressing stamina will play in here, and I think also just he's had a pretty good combination of experience and for a young athlete. He can kind of, I think, recover well from that first workout and still have a pretty near optimal performance on this one. So keep an eye out for Caden Myers. I think overall, this kid's got a chance for a top 10 in this competition. And let's look at the women. Any women that stand up out for you on G unit?
I think Miley Wade's a really good pick on this one. I think Miley's incredible at GHD. She had a really good finish in online semifinals in the GHD lunch workout. Obviously really good at ring muscle ups. I think she would be a really good pick in this one. And I also think that you can look at an Elsie Larson. Elsie Larson's another one that I think would be a really good pick in this one. Gymnastics background. She's someone that I would definitely look out for. Both of those young talent from that kind of showed up at Syndicate, I think we'll both be looking to do really well in this workout.
Who was the first one you said?
Miley Wade.
Miley. I was trying to figure out what CrossFit was talking about. He wanted you to answer the phone call. Miley Wade, I think more people will probably have seen her than Elsie Larson in general, just because she's been at a semifinal and 2 WFP stops this year, or 1 WFP stop this year. She's had good finishes on both ring muscle up and GHD workouts in her kind of small career as a elite athlete. And Elsie, yeah, I mean, when it's gymnastics and barbell cycling, she's great. She's going to have to round out the rest of her, but both women are under, I think, 18 years old. So they got plenty of time for that.
They got time.
Another one I'll just throw out for this one is Trista Smith. Just pretty good again. She actually won the parallel bar dip workout at Wadapalooza the year that she competed in it there. And then Liz Wishart is always really lethal on muscle ups. So maybe she'll have a good workout. A couple other names to keep an eye on. I would assume, I don't think the schedule's been released, but he typically does 2 workouts per day. Oops, we don't want that. We want this. So event 3 likely going to be in the morning on Saturday, hindsight 2030. In the first 6-minute window, you got a row, burpee, overhead squat, and then bike erg. In the next 8-minute window, you do all of that and add 20 box clears. In the next 10-minute window, you add all of those and 30 pill squats, which we've seen at the CRASH competition before. And once again, a longer workout. It's not that frequent that you get, an 18 and 22-minute workout in a competition anymore. It seems like Friday and Saturday morning, that's going to be the case. But first thoughts about this one.
I think that's going to test. It's going to test your ability to recover. I think that's where it differs from event 1. Event 1 all the way through 20 minutes, it's gonna suck for 20 minutes or 18 minutes or however long it takes you to finish it. This one I think is a little bit different. I think I've like throttle up, hammer down at the games this year. It's a very similar event in some ways where you're going to have to sell out and recover in several different several of these different movements. It's going to be really hard to recover while you're on another movement. I did this workout this morning, or a version of it, and the box clears are so sneaky. That's I'd say the hardest part of the workout, hands down. And you go into the second round of the box clears, and you're pretty messed up. So I think what you're going to be looking for is a mix of someone who's explosive enough to repetitively repeat that plyometric movement, but also who has the fitness to get there fast. There are a lot of good people in this field for that.
Yeah, that's pretty. One of the hearing that, and I love that you actually did some of these workouts, and that you're good enough to be in the field, so it's like meaningful feedback. That you could have someone who crushes that first 6-minute interval and completely falls apart on parts 2 and 3 if they don't have that plyometric, kind of skill that you were talking about, or capacity. Lots of athletes. Anyone that jumps out that you want to give a shout out to that might do well here?
I think that there's a lot of opportunity for people to do well. And ideally, you look at this and you think squatting, but I think it's a combination of power output. You've got 2 machines in every single interval. So you got 50 cals and 40 cals for the ladies of machines in every single interval. So I think machine power, and then I think squat muscle endurance. And when I think of both of those things, I think about a guy like Max Krieg for sure. Max Krieg is going to be someone that is going to, I think he's going to absolutely crush this event. I think he's very good at repetitive power. This is going to be a good event for him.
A couple guys that I'm looking at, I would not say I'm like super confident in these picks. They're a little bit lesser known athletes. Is Connor Volts. He had a really good showing at a regionals revenge at Syndicate that had squatting, bikes, toes to bar, and burpees. Some of the implements show up here. He's a younger guy, taller guy. I think he might be able to last on those box jump overs, like you were saying, compared to some of the other men in the field. And he's just an exciting person in general that I'm kind of eager to see where he stacks up against a little bit different group of athletes, very talented group here. And then Corby Foxall. If you looked at him or if you know him historically, this would not be a good workout for him. But at the first workout of Monster Games, it was back-to-back machines and then burpee box jump overs or get overs. And he assassinated this workout and the field, won the workout. And afterwards, the only thing he said to me was, I got a lot fitter. And actually, he looked like he gave away a little strength to get that capacity up. This to me is a capacity workout. That workout was also a repeating effort workout. So Corby could be a sneaky one here to start off Saturday morning. What about for the women?
Yeah, well, first, Corby's just ridiculous on machines. Corby's incredible on machines, and he's really good at that repetitive power as well. That's a really good pick. I like that one. On the women's side, obviously looking at someone again that's really good on machines. I think like a Samantha Pugh, Hannah Hardy. I think those girls are really good squatters and incredible on machines. I think you come from that EMOM company training background. I think both of those girls are going to have maybe some of their best showings on a workout like this. Just because that squat endurance and their ability to power through on machines.
We got a couple shout outs in the comments. Don't count out my homie Reese Littlewood from JO. Never would count her out. She's awesome. And Caitlin Bernardine. Caitlin, I mean, running in machines, she is unbelievable. Upper body pulling, pretty good. I don't see a lot of issues for her on this workout. That is actually a decent pick, I would say, for this one, like meaning it could be maybe one of her 2 best workouts of the weekend. The other one I'm kind of looking at here to maybe have her best showing of the weekend is Gucci Valdemar's daughter from Iceland, who's supposed to be competing here. But you know, those box clears, it's a thing that I don't have like a lot of data on. And if that's a critical part of the workout, I mean, it could all come undone. So I don't know, but those are 2 women that I'd kind of be looking at there. One other that I like just because her capacity is just good. Her competition experience is also pretty established is Caitlin Sanders. And Nadine can confirm that the workout at the Monster Games was horrible.
That looked miserable.
Later on that day, the llama sled drag. See the weights there, 410. I'm actually not sure how to read that. 410 plus 200. So the sled might weigh 200.
So you're putting a sandbag on top of the sled.
Gotcha.
Every round you'll take a sandbag and put it on top of the sled. So it's descending weight on the sandbag, but the sled's heavy every time.
The sled's heavy every time. The kettlebell deadlifts are also heavy. This is a pair of 150s, a pair of 106s. I don't know when Jason got these, but I mean, when JR got these, but yeah, if he's got 6 sets of 150-pound deadlifts in his gym now, that's ridiculous.
Definitely. I mean, I think you have to think too, like JR loves getting some of this stuff for competition, but he does regularly use it in classes, which I think is one of the really cool things about the way that he runs CRASH, and something I've heard about him talking about in the affiliate series that he's done is just using some of this higher level equipment, right, for your classes. And it's not even just a, program for the best and scale for the rest mentality, but, thinking, okay, well, maybe I can use these kettlebells and do some sumo deadlifts, right, for some of my members with a single kettlebell. He's just good at acquiring that equipment and using it for his affiliate, which I think is really cool as an addition to this competition.
And athletes move to this area when they want to pursue like being competitive in this sport. And part of that is because the facility is amazing for it. And part of that is just the continual addition of equipment like this. You can look at this and maybe say this is the strength test if you want to identify that for the weekend. But someone who can, clean and jerk 400 pounds does not guarantee to be good at this workout.
No, it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of output throughout, and it's going to require a lot of fitness. I think that's the cool thing about some of this programming is there are some things that you would consider more niche skills or something that a specialist, like you said, would do really well in. But every single time they're in these events, you're going to have the fitness. You're going to need the fitness required to get to that point. And to express that specialty, you're going to need to be really fit. This event is definitely it's a nasty event. A lot of hinging, a lot of pulling. That sled drag is pretty bad.
Any men that stand out for you on this one?
Men, I think Chris Ibarra is a really good pick for this one. I think it's just his style of work, right? It's grunt work. You wouldn't look at him as someone that's like traditionally super strong compared to the field, I guess. But this is I'd say a more Hepner-esque event, right? And I think that someone like that is going to do really well. So I think Chris Ibarra is a really good pick for this event. I think Sam DeMeester could also be kind of a sneakier pick for this event. Someone again that's good at just grunt work. Just looking down the list, right? I think that those two guys stand out to me the most. But there's a lot of guys I think that could do really well with this workout that might not have as good of a weekend. This is one of the workouts that I think could kind of surprise some people and could shift the leaderboard around a bit.
Yeah, I definitely agree. A couple of the names that maybe end up a little lower down, like you said, by the end of the weekend, but could have maybe top 10 finishes on this. Ethan Scheib, he's been getting some competition legs under him. He moved the deadlifts very, very well at WFP Mesa in the challenger division there. So, I'm still learning about him as an athlete, but he's fairly strong. He's very tough, bigger, kind of bigger guy. So maybe have a good one here. And then this was actually really surprising when I was doing a little research for this, but back when he was doing more individual competitions, Mike Needleman had a lot of surprisingly good showings on deadlift and sled workouts in like 2019-20. I have no idea if he can replicate that 5 years later against this field, but it was too notable. I'm using Apollo Perform Analytics, Barclays site for these call outs with workouts like that. But Mike is a very fun guy to talk kind of trash with. He's but he takes a lot of lessons from competition and tries to constantly apply and improve himself. I love that he's in the field, and I'm pretty curious to see if he has a strong finish on this or if that was something from like a different version of Mike Needleman.
I don't know. Mike's got such a cool story too. I was talking to him at the games a little bit about starting CrossFit like in his backyard, following random workouts with a barbell or a set of dumbbells in his backyard, and then finally getting to an affiliate and going team for years and doing some individual competition and stuff. I think Mike is a super, super fit guy, and I think he's figured out some of the balance. I don't think he puts the emphasis on competition that he used to, but I think he's done significantly better since he stopped putting like this pressure on himself to perform really well in competitions. I think he's one of those people that found a little bit more balance in what he's doing, and it's worked out really well for him.
Women's side, any names jump off the page?
On the women's side, I think again you're going to be looking for someone that's obviously really good at that grunt work. I think that Lindsay Lane could be a good pick for this. I
had her marked down for this one also, and if you just looked at her, you wouldn't necessarily think that about her for this workout. But why did you pick her?
I picked her just because I think she's really good at this grunt work and big capacity stuff. Lindsay's obviously incredibly fit. And it's been, she won in 2023, so you can't count her out of any of these events. I think she's incredible, and super fit, but I think that this event specifically, I think the sled, I think she's going to absolutely crush it. And the deadlifts, I think she'll be able to do enough on the deadlifts to have a really, really good finish in this event.
I like this comment from JR. JR has enough ramps, risers, pillars, and other cool stuff. You could build a 3-room fort in his gym. Well, Lindsay Lane trains there, and if you do look back, she's probably the most experienced CRASH Crucible individual athlete, men or women's side. Meaning she does it, I think, every year. Maybe she missed one, and she has a lot of good finishes on workouts that use equipment that's in his gym that you won't find at a lot of other gyms. So sleds on that turf, these kettlebells that we're talking about, she's using that stuff regularly. She's practicing, and it's definitely an advantage. I had marked her down as also a sneaky pick on this one. And the other one I was looking at was Rachel Noel, just a grinder, grunt work. Rachel's again, she's one of the Adrian Conway bred athletes. And I actually think just the middle chunk of competition, workouts 3, 4, and 5, is where she's going to make her push and the leaderboard overall. But I was struggling to kind of find someone that I thought might stand out on this one. So I decided to throw her name in here.
I like it. I like both picks.
That would bring us to what presumably would be the last day, purgatory. You made a comment about this over here on the sideline. I give you a like today, by the way. Yeah. But you got 4 rounds of 400-meter running, so the workout starts and ends with that. And in the middle, you have 3 different pull varieties that you can choose from, and you get to choose the order as the athlete. They are 5 or 4 rope climbs, a cut rope to 15 feet, 5 or 4 pegboard ascents, and 5 or 4 standard rope climbs, which I would assume everyone's going to do the standard rope climbs last when you're the most fatigued, and you can use your legs. But between the cut rope climb and the pegboard ascent, you might see some variability. Do you think that you can tell me I'm wrong about that? And then also just give me your thoughts on the workout overall.
Yeah, no, I haven't done this one yet. I think I'm doing it tomorrow actually, but I think that this event is going to it's going to be really, 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 really hard for someone who's a good runner and a good puller. And we have several of those in this field.
We really do.
I think that it's going to be really interesting to watch how people split it up, because I think if you take someone who's a really good runner and a really good puller, they can split this up different ways, and they might be significantly faster doing something that we wouldn't even think of. Because obviously everyone's going to look at this and say, oh, maybe, you're going to have to do the legless or the pegboards first. Someone might say, oh, well, I'm going to do the rope climbs first and get way ahead. And then, I trust my pulling stamina to come back and do 5 unbroken pegboards or whatever it might be to finish the workout. So I'm curious. And this is another one that you can test. It's not very expensive to test this workout. Athletes are going to test this workout and retest this workout before the competition. I mean, I know people here that have done it 2 or 3 times already, and with different variations. So it's not a workout that you're going to be hurt by strategizing a little bit different on or retesting it.
Let me ask you this, because this is Sunday morning. We mentioned it on Friday that there can be some breakdown of the midline even after day 1. Obviously, the tests on day 2 are also difficult. Do you think that having this third day of competition, 5th workout of competition, that it's possible athletes will have done that testing you talked about and had a great game plan and get into the middle of this workout and realize this does not feel like practice at all?
Yeah, I mean, that's very training dependent, I think, and what depends on what kind of volume people are doing and intensity with that volume. But I think that no matter what, day 3 of a competition, you're not going to feel you're 100%. And that's something that we all train for, right? But I think that this workout, one of my favorite things about this workout and event 6, when we get to it, these workouts are short and sweet. They're going to be fast. And it's going to be a lot of how bad do you want to hurt? How much effort do you want to put out? More so than it is super skill heavy or super gymnastics heavy even. Obviously, this is a gymnastics heavy event, but there's not the volume in this event that it's going to slow people down a ton. I think you're going to see people, doing 5 rope climbs in less than a minute in this workout. Like you're going to see some crazy stuff in this workout just because the field is that good. And with the adrenaline, they're going to absolutely crush this workout.
Which order would you pick if you had to do it today?
I think I would have to go pegboard, legless, rope climb. I think that would probably be the best strategy for me individually. But I'm curious. I'm really curious to see how people do it. That's why I like I commented, right? I love doing the athlete's discretion because it gives athletes the freedom to mess around with some strategy stuff. And it's more interesting than just saying everyone has to do it this way. Obviously, I think it can be difficult when you're doing that to really keep track of where people are at. That's the thing that I think is the downside when you're watching a competition. It could be, oh, well, maybe he's really, really bad at legless rope climbs and he got stuck in, round 1 and everyone else is on round 2. Or it can just be hard to watch the field. But I think it's, in terms of a fitness test, I think it's incredibly well-rounded test.
Well, if you're wealthy enough to afford the $10 live stream, I'm sure that Sevan and the crew will be putting that money towards a fantastic scoring system so everyone can follow along very clearly with what's happening during this workout. You like that, Wes?
I want to see it.
Dense agrees. I love this for that reason, but will be interesting to follow. Yeah, definitely challenging. And I think also what Wes said earlier, what turned into one of the best memes ever. Is that you can have I think there will be athletes who take an aggressive approach, run fast, do the regular rope climbs, run fast, get in there, and then they're kind of evaluating and they're deciding how much time do I have and buying and like kind of making sure that they don't fail on that pegboard, because that's where you lose the workout. If you start failing pegboards, nothing else matters in this workout. Like that to me is the one thing you absolutely cannot afford to do. Anyway, is there a male athlete here or two that you want to give a little shout out to? Are there any more team athletes from Mayhem?
No, I think some really good picks on this workout. I think Drake Lewis is a good pick. He trained for a marathon this fall, so I think he's a good pick for this. I think he's been running a lot. He's already generally, I'd say, a good runner, and he's going to be really good at pulling. I think another good pick for this one, honestly, again, could be Quinn Robinson. And I know I've picked both those guys already, but I think those are both guys that will finish, probably 5 to 10 in this competition. And I don't think that they're going to have poor finishes in either of these workouts. Jace Brooks.
I marked down Jace Brooks for this one also.
Just a ridiculous runner. Absolutely insane runner.
Dude, the biggest hands I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The only athlete that I've ever shook their hand that I think has bigger hands than Roman.
I've never evaluated his hand size, but I have seen him run, and he can run.
I met him in NorCal. He was fourth on the legless rope climb workout there, first on the running rowing workout, and I think he's an auto mechanic. So he's working with his hands all the time, and they are big and strong. And I think he is in contention to win this workout outright. So definitely be on the lookout for him. Two other guys that we haven't mentioned yet that I like in general, but also for this workout is Noah Wilson. He's a phenomenal runner. Upper body pulling is a huge strength of his. And Justin Johnson, who I would say is just slightly worse than Noah at both those things, but also pretty competent and good at both running and upper body pulling. So a couple names to look out for there. But like Wes said, there's a whole full field of people that could do very well on this workout. And there's definitely the potential to screw it up, even if you are good. So that makes for obviously compelling action. Women's side, anyone you want to highlight here?
I'm just looking at the best runners in this workout. I think that you're going to have most of these girls are going to be pretty decent gymnastic or upper body pullers. I think Miley could be a really good pick for this. I also think a Zoe Jones could be another good pick for that, right? I have to send another Mayhem team athlete up there. But Zoe's an incredible runner and pretty solid at upper body pulling. I think both of those would be solid picks. But again, the field is so deep. Like anyone could come out of anywhere and win this workout. That's the fun thing about making picks and, deciding deciding who you think is going to win an event is the field is so deep. It's like silly to pretend like you have any idea of knowing who's going to win a workout. Thanks, Sam. Thanks.
You better agree with him.
Yeah, right. He's sleeping on the couch tonight. No, I think because the field is so deep, I think it's really hard to say with any kind of definition or clarity that one person is a clear favorite. That's the fun part about CRASH every single year.
There are maybe a couple workouts that we could confidently say that about Colton, as he often decimates even the best fields in the world on specific workouts. But outside of him, completely agree. Reese Littlewood, solid runner, pretty good upper body pulling historically. The other athlete I want to give a shout out to here, we haven't mentioned yet, is Maddie Fouts. Maddie, I would say she doesn't have a ton of relevant competition data against this field, but these are both, again, things that she's pretty good at. She's pretty fit in general. I think she's kind of a lock for a top 10 here. And if you're looking for maybe what could be her best chance to win a workout, I think it might be this one. So a few names to look at, and Wes already alluded to it, but I think it's the shortest time cap of the weekend. I don't think that this is a ode to dense updates, but it's called Press Dense. 6 rounds for time, 4 strict parallel handstand push-ups, 5-inch and 3-inch deficit, 2 finisher flip 600, 450 pounds. Yikes.
I think it's a sweet workout. I think like, I know I can't stop telling or saying enough about the programming, but this workout I think it'd be so fun to watch.
Well, we should say this in general, like this competition is well known for its programming. More and more athletes are starting to mark it down as not something that they are going to do, something they want to do. It's hard to get into this field. And in my opinion, at this time of year, if you can't make the Rogue Invitational, and especially if you live in North America, you should absolutely be trying to make it to this competition. It's very fun. It's very well organized. The program is always clever and creative. And, we see him use this turf and these flip sleds and the parallel handstand push-ups in different varieties all the time. And yet somehow this workout still feels fresh to me.
I think it's going to be a fresh workout. I'm really excited to watch this one as well, just because I think both those last workouts, like you said, 5 and 6 are just like, they're fast. It's how bad you want to hurt. And I don't think they're going to be, and I could be wrong, I don't think there are going to be too many athletes that get stuck up or hung up on either one of these movements, unless you have a severe deficit in strict handstand push-ups or a severe strength deficit. But I did some of the flip sled stuff yesterday at this weight, and I don't think there are going to be a lot of athletes that are hung up on that. I'm not a super strong athlete, and I was able to move that flip sled pretty decently. So I think this field is going to move it even better.
Any particular athletes you want to give a shout out to? Last opportunity on the men's side for event 6.
Again, super, super deep. I think the two that I would look at on this one are probably like a John Wood and a Matthias Porter. I think both of those guys have decent chances in this one. John Wood, I think, is taking a little break from competition after TFX to specifically spend some time getting stronger. I think in the past, he's previously been a pretty decent presser. I want to see how he's coming back and how much of that strength is developed. He's been very open about it on social media and just talking about taking a little bit of a step back to gain some strength again and to really add some more intensity back to his training. So I really want to see him do well, not just overall during the weekend, but I think this is going to be a really good event for him. Matthias Porter is, I'd say, one of the sneakiest competitors in the field. Last year at CRASH, I think he kind of came out of nowhere and surprised a lot of people.
Including taking second place on the strict handstand push-up sled drive workout. I had marked him down as well, and I had to because everyone who loves Matthias Porter, I think, hates me after I forgot to include him on the NorCal roster at all. Just like an omission of a big field. I didn't see him. But I definitely agree that Matthias is sneaky and should not be underestimated on this one for sure.
No.
John Wood, I'm glad you brought that up about John. I mean, John he's middle to older if you would think of the general range of ages where athletes are going to excel, and he was pretty close a couple times to making it to the games in the format we had a couple years ago, like 13th and 14th or something like that out west, and flirting with that final heat, flirting with maybe being the last qualifier, especially in Pasadena. I think he was very close going into the final workout. And there's like at some point in your career, and age doesn't necessarily have anything to do with it, but once you can make it into those fields and you're not quite getting the results that you want, two things, you have basically two roads to go down. That probably means you're going to have more competitive opportunities. But if you continue to compete, you can't do what you just talked about John doing. You need to sometimes take that breath, take that step back and say, okay, do I want to keep finishing 10th through 15th? Or do I want to actually give myself a chance a year from now to be in that top 10? And look, I mean, even someone as good as John Wood, he might know I'm never going to be top 5 amongst all the men in North America West. My genetics just are not quite there compared to a James Sprague and a Justin Medeiros. Fine. But I can probably beat those guys that are 7, 8, 9, 10 if I was just a little stronger. And then actually having the discipline to eat well, sleep well, train appropriately, to make those minor improvements and take a gamble on yourself at 30 years old, which I think he's right around there. And come back and then see if it worked. It's not an easy thing to do at all. I agree with you that it's cool to see someone a little bit later in their career making that choice. And this is the first chance we get to see if it's paid off.
Yeah, I think he'll be really fun to watch all weekend. And
also going to throw Jacob Marlowe's name in the mix here. Jacob is, I think, in general, if you want to be great, I mean, elite, the best of the best, you got to be good in the 3 to 8 minute range. That's where Jacob shines on most things. he's probably missing his biggest strength from competition, which is snatching in this particular crash year. But if we're going to look for one workout for him to really shine, it might be this one. Shortest time domain. I don't think he's going to have an issue at all moving the sled. I think he can press his body upside down just fine. So he might be able to burn this one down and make up some big points late in the weekend. Women's side.
Women's side, this is another one that's going to be hard to beat. I think Kyra Milligan, but I think that the one thing about this workout that I think is interesting is generally you have an athlete with a shorter range of motion in terms of a press, right? Shorter arms are going to excel at strict handstand push-ups. Just generally, that's a pretty good assumption. The parallel changes it a little bit. The parallel, because of that increased range of motion of the press, I think it changes it. And you see some athletes that are incredible at strict handstand push-ups that aren't as good at like a strict parallel because of that added deficit. Sometimes you have guys like a Quinn Robinson or someone like that may struggle on a parallel in general, or on a strict handstand push-up in general, rather, that are going to be really good at this because it equalizes the field a little bit. You saw that Roman at the games when he did, I can't remember the name of the event, but it had parallel handstand push-ups in the middle, echo bike, and yoke carry. When you have an athlete like Roman, who I would say is not pressing biased at all, and he comes in and he absolutely crushes that workout relative to where he would finish in a strict handstand push-up workout, you see that there's going to be a little bit of an equalization when it comes to adding a deficit and especially making it strict.
Yeah, great analysis there, and good, to identify that at the top of the sport, like a handstand push-up is not a handstand push-up. There are these different variations: face away from the wall, face towards the wall, strict kipping, what your hands are actually resting on, the wrist position. All that stuff can make a big difference. I think that for the women in this one, the bigger names are going to filter to the top. I think you're going to see Caroline Stanley, Kyra Milligan be pretty tough to beat in this. Reese Littlewood, Erica Folo. And then a little lower down, the question for me becomes like, how critical is the strength? Like, it could be a good workout for Zoe Warren, but she might get caught up on the flip side. I think more likely to see something good come out of someone like Morgan Porter, who definitely has a lower body strength to go with the upper body pressing. So Morgan's kind of the athlete we haven't mentioned yet that I would say might do well here on the last one.
Yeah, I also think that the other thing you can't discount when it comes to CRASH and the programming is you have to admit, right, and look at access to equipment. And we talked about that a little bit with Lindsay Lane, but I think you talk about that also with athletes that train at your Pruvens, your Mayhems, your wherever, that have access to all the equipment. So do you have access to a flip sled? Do you have access to parallettes to do your strict parallettes on? Do you have access to some of this higher level stuff? And I think that's really where I think a lot of separation will happen in that workout, for example, right? Zoe could be a good presser and great at higher volume hinging, but I don't know if she had access to a flip sled. And I think it does make more of a difference than people generally say.
While we were on the show, Patrick put up my picks for the weekend. So we're going to see what order he's got them in here. And then Wes is going to tell me where I made the biggest mistakes. On the men's side, top 15 here. So I'll give a little bit of an explanation of what I was thinking, and then we'll let Wes dissect it a little bit. For me, Colton Mertens, Chris Ibarra, Nate Ackerman, like everyone else in the field, I think you have to be looking at these guys and say, those are the guys to beat. I'm going to say, I do not think that all three of them will podium. I think that this field is deep enough. Someone will have a good enough weekend to upset one of them, but I just felt like I had to put my money there. They've had the best seasons cumulatively of the athletes that are in this field. So a little bit of respect. They're not bad. None of them are bad necessarily at these workouts. But that's what I had in the top. The next two guys I put, Noah Wilson and Connor Volts, young up-and-coming guys. They've been pretty good, getting better. I don't know if they're good enough to beat guys like Krieg, Marlowe, and Lewis, but I'm just, kind of taking a bit of a gamble on them. I got Caden Myers and John Wood rounding out the top 10. Your boys, Dalton Rogers, Sam DeMeester, 12th and 13th. I don't really know. I don't know what to expect from either one of them. I think they're both super fit. I think they can both have some really good performances. I don't know where they shake out in this field. Also have Justin Johnson, Quinn Robinson, and Matthias Porter. A crazy deep top 15, but is there anything on here that stands out to you as being maybe too high or too low?
What stands out to me is the 4 through 15 could be anyone's game. Like, it really could be, right? You look at that field, and I think there are guys even below that that we'll get to later that could also shake it up. But I think your 4 through 15 is anyone's game. I think any of those guys, if you told me Matthias Porter got 4th, it wouldn't be a shock.
Right.
And if you told me, Noah Wilson was 12th, it wouldn't be a shock, right? It's that the field is that good. So I think it's going to be really fun to watch. I think there are definitely people in this field that have probably done a little bit better, or that have a better history, I should say, than like your Noah Wilson or Connor Voles. So I would probably take a little bit of safer bet and put a guy like Max Krieg, Drake Lewis, or John Wood inside that top 5. But again, Matthias Porter was 5th last year,
right,
in a competitive field. So it's hard to say.
What do you think about Sam and Dalton? Like, where do you think is the top end potential for them, kind of knowing what you know about them?
That's not. I mean, I'm a biased guy. No, I think Sam and Dalton had the potential. Like I said, I can see those guys finishing within the top 5 or 7 guys. It's hard. It really is hard, and I understand why people predict the way they predict when it comes to team athletes, because you don't know. There's no way for you to tell, like, oh, this person was, Sam was second on the games team or on a second place games team this year. Obviously he's going to be top 5 in this competition. It's really hard to say that because you don't know what the team is. You don't know individual strengths and weaknesses. Can they have a hole in their game, maybe hidden? I think Dalton and Sam will both have really good weekends. And I can definitely see them placing within that top 5 or 7.
Next 15, as you said, there's still some great athletes here. Ethan Sheeb, Corby Fox, Mike Needleman, Mason Griffin. I don't know much about this guy. I already see someone's giving me a hard time for picking him too low, but I think he's decent from what the things that I've been able to look at. Jace Brooks, who we mentioned, Kevin Schutz has been around a long time. Mike Evans, we mentioned in the show, Frank Minervini, who's competed here before. Nick Azor competes around in the South. And then just less experience for most of these guys. Saran Suvanasi's actually been around a long time. I was pretty surprised to see his name in here. He actually might be a sneaky pick on that box clear workout. He's very athletic. But are there any guys in this bottom group that you think could kind of sneak into that top 15 or that jump out for you that maybe I don't know as much about?
I think I'd like to say Mike. Mike is one that I think will definitely surprise.
Evans or Needleman?
I'm sorry, Needleman. Needleman, I think, will definitely has room to surprise there. I think another one that I want to see do really well is Frank Minervini. He missed the games on team for the online semifinals by 1 spot this year, and I think he's been training with a little bit.
You know what that feels like.
I do know what that feels like. So he's been training with a little bit of a vengeance. I want to see him do really well. And then both Nick Azor and Zach Levy, I think, have a really good shot in this workout, or not in this workout, but in the competition in general, to do really well. I think Nick didn't do the open this year. He decided to take some time off from competition.
About that.
After semifinals last year, he decided he wanted to take some time and just focus on training and being with his newborn son. And I think he's come back really well from that. So I'm really excited to see how Nick does. I think he definitely can be vying for a top 15 or 20 finish. And then Zach was at Syndicate this year. Zach's another guy that has made it to Syndicate, I believe, the last 2 years, and done fairly well. So I think both of those guys have a chance to be a little higher. But again, the field is from 1 to 29, incredibly deep. So
it really is. I mean, I get excited looking at this bottom 10 and realizing, wow, like which one of these guys is going to surprise this weekend. And I definitely think that we'll see at least one of them that does quite a bit better than this. But you got to earn it. Like, Griffin Brothers slander will not be tolerated. They don't have the competition experience that most of those top athletes do. That doesn't mean that they can't compete. Everyone has to start somewhere, but you got to earn the rankings to some extent. And even like we talked about with guys like Noah and Connor, like they have put up some significant results against comparable competition. Mason and Grant haven't done that, haven't had the opportunity to necessarily do that yet. This is their chance. So that's what, if I'm an athlete down here, that's what I'm looking at, is this is my chance to show these guys why I should be on the first page of a pick like this.
Absolutely. I think it's a good opportunity for people to show up and prove some predictions wrong. You can't expect the I guess the reputation or the street cred per se, if you haven't proven it in competition. So if you're frustrated with your pick, then do better at Crash, and the pick will probably be better next time.
Yeah, there we go. Nadine, Brian, you haven't mentioned any of the top 3 ladies in your picks. So where are they winning? I did miss a few events. Well, we were trying to spread the love a little bit, but I would say similarly to the men's side, when you look at this field, what Kyra's done the last 2 years, Caroline Stanley's done the last 4 years, and Paige Powers has done, winning WFP Challenger division shortly after giving birth. She seems to be, motivated. I'm sure you'll have some additional comments you can share about Paige if you'd like to. To me, those look like the top 3. Those are the ones to beat. Again, I would not expect all 3 of them to make the podium because the field is so good. But if I was coming into the competition, and I would say those are the girls I need to keep up with if I want to have a chance at the podium.
Absolutely. The field again is super deep. I don't think it's quite as deep. My thought is that it's not quite as deep as the guys field. I think there is a little bit more drop off, especially after you get in that lower half of the field. But your top 3 are all individual games athletes, all people that have proven they belong in those top 3 spots. I'd say Paige Powers is coming with a vengeance. So I would watch out for Paige. Paige isn't doing this 2 weeks before Rogue just for fun. So I would keep your eyes out.
And Kyra says in the comments, I think hell just froze over. I think she's used to me fading her on competitions, but I'm thinking about it like this. Kyra passed on the first WFP tour stop. The games qualifying season didn't go her way. She did do the second tour stop. She did, I thought, pretty well there. And she doesn't have a lot of competitions left this year. Like, this is a chance for her to go in there, kind of get some experience, get a good win, pick up some prize money, have a good showing. And like, she's her composite performance over the last 2 years has her ranked in the top 20 in the world on Apollo Perform Analytics, which is the best ranking system that we currently have, the most comprehensive global one that we have. That's nothing to bat an eye at. So, Kyra's good. And I thought she looked about as good as I'd seen in Arizona at WFP. So I fully believe that Paige is coming. I think on paper, the workouts of the 3 are actually the best for Caroline, but I'm going to give Kyra the benefit of the doubt here, even though she may not have the 3 event wins, that I think she can do enough across all these workouts to take it home. Behind her, I've got have some younger, maybe lesser proven athletes, or one or both of those, in Maddie Fouts and Miley Wade. Also have Reese Littlewood in the top 10, who could fall in that category. A few more veteran athletes in Caitlin Sanders and Liz Wishart there. Trista Smith, Erica Folo, Elsie Larson still kind of coming up through the ranks. Not entirely sure how good they are. Lindsay Lane, who we know is a veteran and great at CRASH. Morgan Porter's coming off a great showing at Monster Games, probably her best competition ever this summer. Rachel Noel, who we mentioned, is getting better and better. Riley Beebe's been getting competition experience. Anything seem out of place to you here in the top 15?
I think
besides the fact that Molly McGrady and Zoe Jones aren't in it.
I think Miley's a really good pick in the top 5. I think that she's going to do incredibly well at CRASH. I think she's good at gymnastics, good at some odd object stuff. And I think she'll perform very well at CRASH. I think you got to put Lindsay Lane a little higher. I think that Lindsay's proven that she can win the event in a pretty decent field. And I think that you have to put her a little higher. I think she's coming off of a season that I don't think she's super stoked about. So I think that that's even more motivation going into it. And I've been able to get some insight. She's very fit right now.
Okay. Look for Lindsay Lane to do better than 12th. I think that's a very legitimate thing to say based on her history there. Like we talked about, the familiarity with the movements in the gym and everything. I mean, she's sleeping at home. It is an advantage. Here are your girls. I have them 16, 17, a little lower than the men, but certainly would not be surprised to see Molly and Zoe Jones outperform this. Zoe Warren, Caitlin Bernardi, and Gucci run out the top 20. Amy Hosking, Sam Pugh, who you mentioned both of them briefly in our little roundups, Faith Ferguson, Allie Zerke, Hanny Hardy, Gabby Heckman, Sydney Sanders, Abby Shelton, Bree Carter. Anything you want to say about Molly and Zoe first?
Both the girls have just great. They have really good capacity. So I think, again, it's hard to judge against an individual field. They're not individual competitors per se, but the capacity they have for work is going to put them in a really good position come Sunday. After 2 years of games training together on one of the best teams in the world. I think that Samantha Pugh and Hannah Hardy are 2, again, that I would pick that can definitely be inside that top 15. Just like Molly and Zoe, I think that Sam and Hannah are also really, really solid picks. I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up in that top 15.
So if you see your name on this page, 4 of you are out, according to Wes. No, but that's good. And it is. I mean, there are definitely athletes down here, like we said on the men's side, that will surprise, that will, flirt with that top 10, be in the top half of the field. That's why we love these competitions. Yeah. So feel free to drop your comments in there for your favorite athletes. It's great to build them up. If you can do that in a positive way, even better. But going to be a fun weekend. Some athletes traveling in for this one. And yeah, looking forward to it. Let's see here. Couple comments before we go. Glad to see you covering CrossFit again. We never stopped covering CrossFit, but we have faded away from the games this year, or I have at least, for known reasons. And yeah, of course, supporting the athletes, supporting the competitions is what we love to do. So glad that you're here and being a part of it. Will Wes vie with John Young to be the lead analyst in the CrossFit space? If I recall correctly, Brian also introduced John Young, not to CrossFit, but to the podcasting space. Wes, do you have ambitions to be dubbed the lead analyst in all of CrossFit?
No, not at all. I love talking about the competitions and the fields, and these are all people that I've competed with or competed with. And it's fun to talk about, and you look at these events and break them down and see who will have the best weekend. But I'm not an athlete.
Athlete first, for sure. You do have a good analytical brain, though. Just in talking to you in the really this last year more than anything, I've learned that about you. And it's about John Young. I would say the same thing I always say. You're talking about the top 20 men, 10 women in the world. You're going to be hard pressed to find someone who knows more. But when you start broadening out that breadth of athlete field and knowledge, it is actually a lot of times the athletes that have a good pulse on their regions in the world, as good as anyone. A lot of them aren't willing to come on and talk about it because those are their competitors. But when Wes isn't competing, we've certainly been really privileged to have him on here to offer some insights. And it's tough. I mean, it's tough to talk about your friends, right? You obviously want to say good things, but they know as well as you do, it's a tough field. They got to go and earn it just like everyone else. But we appreciate having you here. It's CRASH is not this weekend, it's next weekend, but the workouts are out, the athletes are out. We think this is one of the best competitions in the fall in the world, definitely in North America. And so if you weren't aware of it, we wanted to make sure that you were. Plenty of opportunity to get lined up. Savan and crew are broadcasting this one. I don't think that there's a $10 cover charge. I think that they were just trying to get me to say, famous 3 words or something like that. But I saw that Matt Souza has been testing out some new stuff, and he's promised to have clear quality of internet for broadcast from CRASH. JR is one of these guys. He doesn't like to do anything half quality. So they've troubleshooted what they've learned in the past, and I would be confident. Typically when Souza puts his mind to something, he figures it out. So I think that they'll have a great broadcast there. A lot of energy, a lot of passion, and a lot of good athletes to talk about. So should be a good one. MFC is in fact this weekend, Masters Fitness Championship. I've been there the last 2 or 3 years. I won't be there this year, but best of luck to everyone competing and going to support. Patrick and I think we'll have one show later this week, probably on Thursday. So be on the lookout for that. Otherwise, yeah, MFC this weekend, CRASH next weekend. Wes, final thoughts or words?
No, excited to watch that CRASH field. I wish I could be there. It's a good field.
That's where you're supposed to say B.Friendly, our friends, but I said it now, so we're good to go. And we'll see you guys later this week.